This is Saints 4 Takeaways, sponsored by American Men Roofing.
The experience in London is a spectacle, and thousands of New Orleanians and Minnesotans made the trip, and the reviews from the fans who go are overwhelmingly positive. The downside for Houdats, though, is that these guys were doing the smiling when the game was over. Now, the Saints were close in London. They were better overall. There are positives, but they still were not good enough. In 4 games, the Saints are last in the NFC South now, but only 1 game out of first. So let's start our 4 takeaways with this. Justin Jefferson is a beast, and actually that line is from a Vikings fan Ricardo interviewed in a London bar, and he sort of said it in a drunken slur, but he's right. Marshawn Lattimore had largely shut down Carolina's DJ Moore and Tampa Bay's Mike Evans, but he did not shut down Justin Jefferson, who had 10 catches and for 147 yards Sunday, by far the biggest numbers any receiver has put up against the Saints this season. Louisiana football fans got to know JJ as that guy. 1,500 receiving yards and 18 touchdowns in LSU's amazing national championship run. He had been part of the Tigers' class of 2017. That class, 24 players, 3 elite 5-star guys, then 11 4-star guys, 9 3-stars, and 1 2-star guy. One guy who really had no business thinking he could play for LSU. That guy was Justin Jefferson. He was terrific at Destrehan, but nowhere near the top 100 receivers in the country in his class. Now he is the best wide receiver anywhere. He entered the NFL draft in 2020. These are the top 5 wideouts since the beginning of that season. There are a bunch of great receivers in the NFL, and then there's Justin Jefferson, the 2-star recruit. At number 3, penalties continue to kill the Saints. The numbers are awful. In this game, the Saints were penalized 10 times for 102 yards. That's twice as many penalties as the Vikings for almost 3 times as many yards. And this week, the killer penalties came on defense. An incredible 5 times, Saints penalties gave the Vikings first downs. On the 4th quarter drive in which the Vikings took the lead, 3 times the Saints were called for penalties, all 3 on 3rd down, all 3 extended that Minnesota drive. Now, certainly, several of the calls were questionable, but the Saints have got to figure out a way to eliminate those penalties. At number 2, and probably the best thing going forward, we saw the return of some big boy football. The Saints ran the ball very effectively, especially with Latavius Murray, for 111 yards, and for the first time this season, they found some offensive rhythm with 3 long touchdown drives. On those drives, they ran it 20 times and threw it 14. Now, remember back in 2020 when Drew Brees had no real zip left on his fastball? The Saints won 12 games that season. They were 6th in the NFL in rushing, and their magic number was 120 yards rushing in a game. They did that 11 times. In those games, they were 10-1. I think running the ball is a huge key to offensive success going forward, and the Saints might have discovered that in London. And at number 1, turnovers, and in this case, punched out fumbles, killed the Saints Sunday. 2 more lost turnovers. That is 11 giveaways, most in the NFL. 6 lost fumbles, most in the NFL. -7 turnover margin, worst in the NFL. In fact, the 3 teams at the bottom of the heap in turnover margin are a combined 3-8-1. Nothing else really matters except this. If you give it away like the Saints are doing right now, you're probably going to lose no matter what. It's the same song we heard last week, although the fact that Will Lutz actually had a shot to tie this thing up at the end of the game is amazing considering the penalties and the turnovers. There was enough good that if they can stop giving it away, maybe they can get this thing turned around. And that's my 4 takeaways from the Saints' loss in London.